we're going to go through some very, very difficult times.
Yes. The Bible says that it is going to be so bad that there is no time in history that is as bad as this time that's coming. And now you talk about the genocide that Hitler and his regime did. You join Stalin, Mussolini, and Hitler, and that is going to look like a Sunday school class in comparison to what Revelation says, that I think it was a third of the population of the world is going to be killed, and there's 3 ways they're going to kill them. And if I had my Bible right here, I know that one was with death, but we can see all these things going on right now. They are happening. It's going on with war. People are dying with war. People are dying with vaccines. People are being poisoned. People are being killed. And Jesus even said, "Well, some of you be brought forward before judges and magistrates, but don't worry what you're going to say, for I'll give you the words to say." He said, "Some of you be killed, some of you be thrown in prison." It's all happening, but this is just the beginning of birth pains in Matthew 24 and 25 and Luke 13 and all that, And, like I told you the last time we talked, I just started reading the Bible in jail, and it just changed my life. And it is, like it says, everything that is in the Bible is written for our instruction, to godliness, everything pertaining to life and godliness. Exactly, those are the exact words. And if we don't read the whole counsel of God from front to end, and we just learn how the Lord works and what we're supposed to do, we'll really find it out. We'll really know. And I hope that's where some of the people in the truth movement would come to the real truth of Christ. Because Satan, an old man once said, how Satan works? He'll mix up truth with lie, right? There's enough truth there, but a little bit of lie, just like leaven's the whole loaf. And so he said that it's like rat poison. If you look on the back of the bottle of a rat poison, it actually does say that it is 99.995% nutritious and 0.005% like poison, cyanide, whatever it is. So that's how much healthy stuff is in there, but there was just enough to kill the rat.
What do you think their goal is? What is the purpose of being a Mason?
Well, I think I would say that probably 90% of them don't even really know what's going on. Yeah. That's what they say. Albert Pike wrote in that same book to the Masons of the 31st and the 30th degree, this is what we mean by what we say God. But to those feeble-minded, this is what we'll tell them what we say God is. So they don't even tell their own members unless you're invited out to Virginia to the council, the Masonic Lodge Council, and you stand before them. And that's where you receive your, I think, the 31st or 32nd or 33rd degree one. That's the beginning stage of the whole denouncing Christ deal. There's a great article. Guy was killed over it, but he was invited down there, and the Christian dentist was telling him to get out of it, and he didn't. And they flew him to Virginia. It's online. They flew him to Virginia, and if I find a link, I'll email it to you.
Okay.
In Virginia is the Masonic Council. That's where you go when they invite you in to be the 33rd degree. That's where you go. And his whole testimony is on that. And it is at the end it is very, very good, because he turned to Christ and he walked away from the whole deal. But he was the one that he didn't know until at that point, and then the Lord used it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you asked about their goal. I mean, if we could say the other 10% out of the 90, obviously they're swearing their allegiance to Lucifer, and every Masonic lodge in this world. What they teach was that Adam and Eve were held captive in the Garden of Eden by a vindictive God until Lucifer, the light bearer, came and showed them the truth and set them free. Wow. That's what they teach.
Okay.
No kidding. the biggest evangelical leader of all time is Billy Graham. And how old is that guy now? 200 and he's not done yet? wait till he passes, dude. Wait till he passes. It is going to be bigger than Pope John Paul II.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And there was documents that came forward that Billy Graham was a Mason. See, they'll say, oh yeah, we accept Christians, and but once you get in there, yeah, you can be a Christian, but you have to understand that you serve the same God as the Jews and the Muslims. That's what Masonic, because they have another name for it. Ed Decker was who's the guy, Stanley Monteith of Liberty Radio.
Mm-hmm.
They exposed a lot of that stuff. Even I'll remember this other guy's name in a minute, but there's some really, really good videos out there that help explain the founding fathers and what their goal was and what was really going on at that time. And then we learn why there were cornerstones laid for all these Masonic buildings and what they were really up to. And, they want to dominate the whole world and set up God's kingdom. I think that's what they're doing.
Now, when
but
they
Jesus,
say God, it's
right.
they mean the devil.
Right, but yeah, exactly. And so a lot of the Masons, when you go into a lodge, you have a pillar on the right, a pillar on the left. You have the checkerboard floor. You got Jacob's ladder and the key of David hanging off the ladder. It's this map, And there is no north on this map. East is the north for Masons. So, because obviously Jesus said they turn everything upside down, right?
Right.
So if you look at a compass, north is pointing up, then you have or southeast, and they twist it and put east towards the top, and that's why they're heading to the east. When you see the Masonic stickers on the cars, they're usually on the driver's side, right by the driver's window or on the left back bumper. So if there's another Masonic cop who pulls over a Mason, there's cue words that they ask, where you're headed, and the answer is, well, I'm just traveling east, looking for truth.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. It gets pretty crazy.
So, do you know what that G means? The G inside their symbol?
There's people that say Gnostics. There's people that say God. I don't really know.
Yeah, I had somebody tell me it meant sacred geometry.
I
don't know.
It could be. Right. Well, it would be Gnostic, starting with Gnostic. The G. There is no, Gnostic. Mm-hmm. And, but, it was in our own home. My grandfather was a Mason, and also he was a Shriner. And I believe that you have to hit the 30th degree before you become a Shriner. Or before you, being a Mason, you have to hit the 30th degree before you become a Shriner. So Shriner's a whole different club, but when you look at the symbolism on that little, what do they call that, red cap? I forget. There's so much stuff going on in my head. But if you look at it, it's a Muslim sword, mm-hmm. And and that was my grandfather, That was my grandfather. And I remember a Ouija board in his house. My grandfather.
Why? Why was there a Ouija board?
I don't know. In the living room. Yeah, right. In the living room, we're all, where the fireplace, and then all the windows looking out on the lake and Lake Minnetonka. Then on the left, there was a little niche that was built into the wall where you could put Scrabble and Yahtzee, and there was two shelves of all these games, and on those two little shelves there was a Ouija board with the little triangle thing, with the clear plastic glass that's in the center of it, and everybody's supposed to put their hands on it and move it around, and get into some seance or something. So I don't know who brought that into the family or why it was there, but I just know it was, and it just seems very, very overwhelming to me that it was in my own home, and When you watch my grandfather pass, this God that he claimed through Masonic, well, he sure didn't trust in that God when he was about to die because he was fearful, angry, scared as a 90-year-old man, because he didn't know the truth.
Did he try to reach out to Christ at any point? No.
Not at all. Not at all.
Do you think he ever really knew Christ and denied him, or do you think he just never got to know Christ?
Well, I'm sure that obviously we know that the love that the God that we serve is willing that none should perish, but all come to repentance and the knowledge of it. We know that the Lord is so gracious that he is willing, Paul wrote, that he is willing that none should be perished, but that all come to repentance. And my grandfather had plenty times, I know, because that's how loving the Lord is. And he just kept rejecting them and wouldn't have nothing to do with them. I mean, this guy was making guns. He was making guns from nothing. Bought a block of wood for stocks, making his barrels on a lathe, blowing them in blowing tanks, making his own bullets. I mean, and my grandpa was so quiet and a pretty ornery man,
But why? Do you know any idea why? Was it his childhood or something, or?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't know him when he was younger, but when he was older, and being around 12 or 13 years old at the time, as I look back, you really had to punch and kick him just to get him to say just a couple of words. He didn't say much.
Wow.
And I think that this world and this country and war destroyed him. And he was in World War II, He was I don't know if he was a general or what, but he had four stars on his uniform, So whatever that is, Sergeant, I don't know. I don't know nothing about the rankings of military, but my grandpa was pretty far up there. It's sad, man.
Yeah.
And that's, and seeing that and having being a part of my family, praise the Lord that my dad and my older brother, got saved through all of this. And, and it's just, my goal is to shed the truth on it. And being placed up in Perm, Minnesota at that time to listen to this guy that worked for George Bush, Madeleine Albright, and Colin Powell. I mean, that was eye-opening and scary at the same time, I'll be honest. Because I knew what was going on in that room. I knew what he was talking about. When you don't have a choice. When God, you come to his Son and you ask for forgiveness, then he says that God sends the Holy Spirit to you, which leads you and guides you in all truth because you trusted in his only Son. Well, people don't understand is that when you're shown all truth, he means all truth. And we're just now waking up to the fact of all this, Mm-hmm. And yeah, we're caught behind enemy lines. The Bible says that Satan is the god of this world. And God gives us the truth. And Jesus even said to the Jews, look, I've sent you all my prophets, and you kill them. And now you seek to kill me. And then those who were following Jesus, his disciples, his followers, he says the same message to us. And it wasn't like Paul and Timothy and Silas and all the disciples and apostles and all that were just so giddy that they were just, going out and running around and sharing the gospel. The reason why they were going city to city is because they were fleeing because they were being killed. So they had to run.
Isn't that why Christ kept going from town to town, too, and never
really
stopped? Right?
Exactly. And he even, like I told you last time, he even spoke about these people that he called it. He said that these are the builders that rejected the true cornerstone.
For me, it's hard. It's hard to put myself in a person's spot who doesn't know Christ. I mean, the best that I can do is just think of how miserable that must be. How fearful and how scary that must be.
Yeah. But I mean, I received in my immediate family, my ex-wife, I mean, her family was, I would say, pretty well off, and I can honestly say that money cures everything. They have enough money to take care of their health and pay for whatever bill or heart transplant or defibrillator or whatever. I don't know. The Bible says to some that it is, the gospel is foolishness to them.
So you grew up with a Ouija board in the house. Did you ever see anything? Have you ever witnessed any, physical demons or ghosts or things moving that shouldn't be moving? Anything like that at all?
No, there was nothing like that I had ever noticed. Obviously that was before internet and all that stuff, and
right.
Now you have paranormal shows and spiritual shows, and and everybody, a lot of people are being interested in it now. So, but no, I didn't notice anything like that.
Interesting.
And maybe that was just the Lord's hand in it all. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. I think my ex-stepdad, when I was really young, I think he was involved in something. I don't know what, but and I never saw anything or anything like that. There was only one time where we were home, and there was nobody else home, and the shower in the master bedroom just turned on. It just turned itself on. And
wow.
I went over and I turned it off, and that was it. It never happened again. Never saw it again or anything like that. But going through some of the other videos, through what other people have seen, like that was the only thing that I was like, oh wow, like I saw something like that. I have no idea what that was.
And that's not like that's not like something just falling off the countertop or the shelf. I mean, that's a valve that's turning all the, you know what I mean?
Right. Oh yeah, because this went all the way on too, and it was on. It must have been on for a couple minutes before I noticed it and realized, hey, there's something wrong here, But I never saw anything or anything like that. But I do believe he was involved in something like that, some weird.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. I know. Speaking of that type of topic, when you throw the Lord into it, when He's talking about it,
yeah,
He said that casting out demons these only come out by prayer and fasting. Mm-hmm. Well, here in this country, traditionally for over 200 years, we eat 3 square meals a day, and our first one is actually the first meal of the day. It's actually called break fast. So if we're if we're not fasting, how are we even going to be able to tap into the spiritual world that Jesus is talking about if we're not praying and fasting? That's a whole another topic that's very interesting, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because when you deny yourself and your body, I mean, Jesus fasted for 40 days. The Spirit led him out in the desert, and then Lucifer tempted him 3 times.
Yeah.
So he's here. Yeah. I think that as time goes on, Greg, I really believe that there will be a really, really good chance to witness to people because of how dark it's going to get.
Yeah.
Spiritually speaking, those who have eyes to see, things will become more clearer and more clearer, but those who aren't saved, it's just going to get darker and darker for them, the deception. And, I mean, like I said, here's a great example of that. You have the United States, the evangelical Christians who support Israel through Billy Graham, the Pope, the Jews, the Christians here, Rick Warren. I mean, I can just go down the list of all these
Joel
Osteen, and you name it. Who's that? Stanley. Oh, his last name is Stanley. He's a pastor on TV. You know who I'm talking about?
I was going to try to look him up.
Charles Stanley.
Charles Stanley.
Yep.
Let's see what this guy
Another one.
Harold Camping is one of the worst, though, right?
Yeah, right.
Have you heard of Harold Camping, actually?
The name sounds familiar.
Okay. I was just curious. He was the guy who thought that he said the world was going to end on May 21st, 2011, and I was working there when he said all.
Oh, is that right?
Stuff. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I've never heard of this guy. Yeah.
Yeah. What I was going to say is that you have these huge evangelical leaders that are, who is John Hagee, for instance. Kenneth Copeland. I mean, there was a lot of these guys that were laying their hands on Trump. You can see that too when they were praying.
Oh, really?
There was Jews there. There was Kenneth Copeland was there. There was some politicians there. Beth Moore was there. There were some other people there, and they're all laying hands on Trump, praying for him. And they really believe that God chose him to be there, and they think that he's some God figure, set up by God. But we're commanded not to entangle, or another word is to ensnare ourselves in the affairs of this life. And if we really dissect what that means, you don't go apply for a job at the White House and sit behind that desk and get into war and killing people.
Yeah. Right?
You don't, like a guy I really highly respect, he keeps, saying that, Pence is a true believer. I have a hard time believing that. But then when we read the harsh words of "you must strive to enter into the narrow gate," and he says there's only a few that are going to enter.
Right. It's very clear. Yeah, it's very clear.
What is it? Like I always say, what does the King of Kings and the Lord mean? Lord of Lords, when he says few. Yeah. And then he likens it. You want to know what it is about the coming of the Son of Man? Go back and read Noah. He was telling his disciples,
Mm-hmm.
As in the days of Noah, so shall it be the coming of the Son of Man. And, well, there was a message from God at that time. It was made of wood. It had a small door, and only a few entered. Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
And God shut the door. That was the ark, and Jesus referred to it at that time. That's what it's going to be like.
Right.
So it's really eye-opening to see. But what I was going to say was those two things is that what these evangelicals are leading what I call the church. It's not Jesus' church that he's building. It's the world's church. And we are commissioned by God to pray for the peace of Israel. That's what God's word says. But we know in that Jesus said, I came to my own, and my own received me not. But there's one coming who you will receive. So the Jews today are waiting for the Messiah to come, but they killed the Messiah, and they're waiting for the Antichrist to come, and they're going to give him the stage. And they have support from America, and America says, oh yeah, we're defending Israel, but God says, Israel is mine, and I will defend her. Do you think God needs America's help?
No. I think it's the other way around, right? It's always been the other way around.
Exactly.
Always be the other way. Yeah.
Right. And every single war that's in the New Old Testament, they were outmanned by huge numbers. So, God, he says that his strength is made in our weakness. I have no idea what that means. But he always seems like he has some incredible odds against him, but he knows exactly what's going on. So he in a chess game, he can't lose.
That's right. Oh, you're right, man.
I have a son that's all, Dad, the Illuminati. I said, son, listen, boy, you have no idea what you're talking about when it comes to the Illuminati. He's like, well, how do you know? I said, son, I'm a Mason. He's like, oh, you're part of the Illuminati. I'm like, it doesn't work that way. I said there's levels and there's. I don't know. Have you ever seen the levels? Because there's easy ways to.
I've heard theories on it, yeah. But there's Masons. I mean, not all. I mean, are we to assume that all Masons are bad?
I shouldn't say certain things.
Well, I don't want you to say what you don't want to say, or something you might regret or whatever.
Well, I'm not going to really regret it because I'm actually no longer a practicing Mason. So I don't practice anymore because, for me personally,
but you were there.
Yeah, I was there,
yeah.
and I didn't like the organization, only because it's changed so much today than what it used to be when my father was one.
What's the difference?
The difference is societal concerns. Everybody wants to be like the Joneses. They're fake about it. You know, it's not the passing of information like it used to be. It's not the integrity of manhood and standing on the square like it used to be. You know, there was, and I'll say this, that, you know, when I asked my brothers for help, they looked at me like I was crazy. I said, "Oh, this is how we do it as brothers in Masonry." Is this what it's supposed to look like? Because if this is what it looks like, I don't want to be a part of this shit. And they keep asking me, well, why'd you stop? Why'd you stop? Why'd you stop? I'm like, how many times do I got to tell you? When I asked for help, nobody came to my aid like you were supposed to as a brother in Masonry. You know, you was worried about your goddamn self. But I'm sitting over here struggling, but y'all niggas want something for free.
Can't argue with that, all right?
Adios. I'm still human, nigga. You know, and I got needs just like my family had needs and everything, so I had to figure it out myself. So, and as I grew up as a young man and watching my dad and how his brothers, you know, but we didn't know they were my dad's Masonic brothers. I didn't realize it until I got older, until I became a Mason. Why were these three guys always over here? It's like, damn, Dad, why? What's all that happening? And every time they came, we always got what we needed for some reason. You know, or, you know, my mom wasn't so uptight about money issues or things being so tight, you know. It was like, you know, because my dad got what he needed from his brothers, from his brethren. So, just because of my curiosity and my willingness and wanting to learn things, I still kind of want to be a part of it. But then I'm like, yeah, fuck that. Because I was going to go to the shrine. I was going to go through the steps and all because I'm what is called a 3rd degree Mason. And I belong to the Blue House.
What does that mean?
Okay, so your entry into Masonry, you have to go through the first 3 degrees. That's what and you become a Master Mason. So you go through the first stage. You learn these things that you need to learn in order to be a brother. So after you learn that, you take it to the next level of education and learning within Masonry itself. So you start learning, and there's secret things, and that's where people get their biggest thing is. It's like, these are just things that common people don't know. That's all it is. It's nothing. I ain't never worshiped no devil. I ain't never done nothing crazy, out the ordinary. I didn't have to do nothing stupid in those first 3 degrees. Now, I heard it gets different after that. I don't know. I ain't been there.
Yeah.
But knowing my father being a high-ranking Mason, he never said that he had to do anything crazy. And he was a Christian man, and he believed in God. So when I think about Masonry, for me, it was never bad. It was never that mysterious. But now, as I got older and started doing my own research, then it just made me kind of say, well, hell, shit, if I'm dealing with some devil shit, I'm cool. You know, and I don't want to be a part of that, and I didn't want to be a part of that. But their actions as men is what made me stop. It would be like you'd be my friend. Hey, Greg, I need some help, man. Can you help me out? Yeah, man. And you just kind of ignore me and you walk away. And we've been friends 30 years. Hey, I'm sorry, I need some help, man. What's going on? Can you help me out? Me and the family are struggling. And you walk away from me. As a man, you're not a friend to me. Because I know I would turn around and help you. Tone, I need some help. $30? Gee, what you need? We need some food.
Gas money.
gas money.
It's always a big one, you know.
Even cigarettes.
Even cigarettes.
So,
wine for me.
So when I was showed, because one thing that we do say in Masonry is that you have to be worthy of my friendship. And if I don't deem you or find you worthy, to me, you're not a brother. Even though you might be practicing, and it's just like, okay, well, that's some bullshit. Fuck that. First, he's human, then he's a man. Then we'll deal with it from that aspect. So when I felt mistreated and when I felt like when I was asking my brothers for help, they didn't help me. So I just said, okay, yes, I'm curious about what other knowledge they have, but if I have to deal with these men, I prefer not to. I'll let my knowledge stay right where it's at, and I'll figure it out the rest of the way. So, again, when you're talking about higher rankings and 33 degrees, a lot of that to me is just, if you have money. If you don't have money, you're not going to make it.
That's what it all comes down to.
That's what it all boils down to. Because you have to pay dues. You have to pay dues to be a Mason.
Right.
So it's just like kind of like the Air Force, you know, basically handpicking and selecting those people, you know, because, and that's how it actually happened for me, is I was in Colorado, and I was talking to this brother, and he was wearing a Masonic shirt, and I said, yeah, I'd like to talk to you about that. And he said, are you a Mason? I said, no. And he goes, well, if you want to do this, that, and the other thing, and it was just that small interaction that started my journey into Masonry. But I already knew my dad was a Mason, though, too, so I was kind of hunkering.
Kind of curious, maybe?
Yeah, I was kind of curious, because my dad asked me when I was 18, he goes, you want to be a Mason? I said, Dad, what is it? He said, well, I can't tell you all that, son. But I said, well, I don't want to get into something I don't know about. He goes, okay, I understand that and I respect that.
Did it seem suspicious or like...
Never.
You didn't get a bad feeling? It was just like,
not a bad feeling.
Just sounds like a group, another...
Because everybody that hung around my father, they were all Masons and they were all upper echelon, higher people. And
was that Desert Storm?
That was the original Desert Storm, and it's called OEF or OIF. So when you see those two in conjunction, those are the two that we were there just for the 30 days. We did all that fucking bombing and everything. Well, what they basically did was they set us up for to be guinea pigs, just like they did with Vietnam vets, like they did with World War II vets, like they did with Korean vets and everything. So basically what they did was they gave us anthrax vaccination, PB pills, which is something bromide. I can't pronounce the first word. It's a bromide pill that was supposed to protect us from all that stuff, but we end up actually really getting, a lot of us gotten sick, so we have all these problems. We have, shit. Do you really want to see a lot of this information? Because I can show you a lot of the stuff that we talk about and that we deal with. And I also have another friend, I'm not going to use his name yet, but he's another vet, and he was on Facebook with us as well, and he helps a lot of veterans do a lot of things, but he just does it in his own way. He's really quiet about it and stuff, and he does what he does. So, okay, so this is my C file. This is Google Plus. All these are exams and all kind of documentation from the VA that I received.
You have it all backed up too, I'm assuming offline somewhere?
This is all backed up offline.
Okay.
And I have thumb drives and everything like that. So a lot of us vets that are going for service connection disability, I can show you documentation. I can show you what they're doing as far as Gulf War illness is concerned and how they're trying to cover it up. Same thing they did with Agent Orange in Vietnam, and the same thing they did with the explosions and radiation treatment, or radiation, when the atom bomb first came out. So it would have been Hiroshima, and stuff like that. So they literally, and they have videos of where they had troops in the blast radius just to see how the fuck it would affect them later on. Have you seen some of those? Yeah. So all that shit's real. All that shit's real.
There's some old some pamphlets that I saw, and it was just crazy. Like, these are real government, where they would say, you know, they have the whole nuke or whatever it was, and the soldiers are just sitting right next to it.
Right next
Stuff
to it.
like that.
Yeah. And just putting off radiation. and wanted to see how long it was going to take for them to, how it would affect them later on in life. That's why we don't get paid for a lot of stuff. So
because of the radiation.
yeah, because they'll say, "Oh no, we didn't do this or we didn't do that." So they'll literally cover it up and lie bold-facedly in front of everybody. So all the things that you're touching on aren't actual conspiracies.
It's the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah,
this
is the real shit in what you're talking about. And a lot of stuff that's in there is what we're dealing with as veterans. And then also, I go back to my dad because they kept trying to cover up Agent Orange. They covered it up for 40 years. And now you're just starting to pay those guys, but a lot of those guys have died off already.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, it's so crazy because when you really start to peel the onion of our history and you start finding out all these different things, you just keep going deeper and deeper. And I got tired. I just got tired because I've been dealing with the VA for 8 years. So I was called back to the Gulf War, but I wasn't deployed. And what made me think about it was I was sick. I kept having all these symptoms. And I got sick like everybody that had went over. And I tell everybody the same story. Mm-hmm. Now, we were put in a gymnasium on the Marine Corps base in North Carolina. We were at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, because I was called back because I was in Hayward. Mm-hmm. My orders read, blah, blah, blah. I actually have a copy of my orders, my callback letter.
That's cool. You got all that stuff, man.
Yeah,
That's history.
I keep it all. Well, I still have to utilize it because if I don't show these people what I need to show them, they'll ignore me. They'll push me off to the wayside. And if I don't keep fighting for what's mine, yeah. So that is my actual callback letter. My dad, that was the first time I ever seen my dad cry. My dad was a Vietnam vet that went to Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And you can see my report date and everything. So I checked in and Winton off of Winton. I checked in, mm-hmm. got on a plane and went to North Carolina to train. That night when we got to North Carolina, they made us line up. They were lining up Marine Corps, Navy, whatever. Navy was giving the shots. Man, and we were all in line. And they had those little guns, right? I got about 15, 20 people in front of me. Boom, officer falls over here. Boom, Lance Corporal falls over here. Over here in another line where they're getting another fucking gang of shots, people just falling out left and right. I started getting scared. I was like, what the fuck? I said, is that going to happen to me? And we were getting needles. We probably got a series of 12 shots that first night we got back. They were already giving us, and we found out. I found a document where, and an article where that batch of vaccines was supposed to go back to the CDC. The CDC had told the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, do not use this batch.
They still did.
And they still did. And they used it because it has botulism and it has metals in it. So what happened to the people that fell down? Most of them have died already. A lot of people have died. A lot of people have died quickly. Probably within 4 years after that. So back in 95, you won't hear about it. This is where you're gonna have to really dig and find and get the and find some research. You're gonna I don't know who your CIs are, who can give you information, but it's gonna be hard to find out all the people that have died from that vaccination during that time. There is a YouTube video that my friend sent me, Glenn, of one of the nurses that were giving the shots, and she says, I knew I wasn't supposed to get, and she's pleading and crying and she's feeling bad because she knew the shot wasn't supposed to be given, but they were giving the shots anyway. They were giving the shots anyway. Same thing with Agent Orange. They knew it was a herbicide that, killed the foliage, but it had depleted uranium or something. It had some kind of chemical in it that was causing cancer, and they knew it. But they still let those guys, they were dumping it by the barrelfuls, my dad said. My dad said he was in a helicopter, and they would take the barrel, and they're hanging off the side of the helicopter, and they're just dumping it as they're just flying like this. No gloves, no nothing. No protective wear. You'll also find out and hear about our suits in the first Gulf War. Those suits weren't protecting a fucking thing. They didn't even work from chemical warfare. They weren't protected. They're called NBC suits. They were not being protected in any way, shape, or form from any of the chemicals wearing those. It's called Mach 5. Mask, hood, this big-ass jacket, pants to go along with that, and boots to cover you up to protect you from any chemical warfare that was supposed to be happening. Mm-hmm. Where did chemical warfare come from? Who, in what other country, think about it, what other country can even, let me stop and let me digress again. Let me say it this way. They can't even do anything with their oil. They can't even change it into a fuel to be utilized. So how in the fuck did they get some of the shit that they got over there? It was all our shit. We were the ones helping them. We were the ones doing all that. We were the ones that created all that. Nobody wants to talk about this part. Nobody wants to say anything about this because this is where everybody gets scared and they don't want to deal with it.
What are they scared of?
Men in suits. The black men in suits. You don't want CIA coming knocking on your door, Mr. Grant, blah, 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 blah. And at first I was scared, but I don't give a fuck. I don't care. Listen to my conversations, hear what I'm saying. I'm telling you what. And I say to them all the time, I say, if you are listening to me, I want you to hear what I'm saying because I'm pissed because you're not giving me my due justice. I served my country for 8 years. I did what I needed to do. And now here I am, a fucking homeless vet? Are you kidding me? How does this happen?
Yeah.
How did my dad die when he didn't smoke, drink, or do drugs? How did that happen? You know, so I just started asking myself all these questions, and I just started researching and kept looking. And I started finding answers because I started getting sick. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I was like, what the fuck is going on? My stomach blew up like this. My stomach was hurting all the time. My joints started hurting. My back was hurting. I'm fucking in the prime of my life. I'm 22 years old. And I'm hurting like an old man. I'm like, what the fuck? So I started going to the doctors. I had my own regular doctor. Oh, Mr. Grant, you got this. Oh, Mr. Grant, you got that. The part that fucked me up the most is when they said I had asthma. Motherfucker, I ain't never had asthma in my life. Now as an adult, I got asthma. Oh, well, that happens sometimes. No, it doesn't. The body doesn't work that way. It's unnatural for the body to do some of the things that it does. So, I've said that wrong. It's unnatural to get some of the things that we get unless it's man-made. And that's how we get a lot of the shit that we get because the body's a perfect machine. Mm-hmm. It knows exactly how to heal itself, when to heal itself, and what to do. It knows each and everything to put out so that it can heal itself rapidly. If you look at indigenous people today that don't have any of the technology around them or that, you know, that are doing the ayahuasca and all that stuff, when you start looking at the indigenous people, then people live forever. How is it that they do that? Think about all the Japanese. How did the Japanese live so long?
Sushi. No.
Well, shit. I thought about that too.
No, but it's the environment. Sure. It's
You know, there are people like even Michael Jackson. He understood. Mm-hmm. He didn't like, and he spoke about it. He talked about the Illuminati and stuff like that, and everybody's going, what? And they were just calling him Wacko Jacko. No, and they tried to make him look crazy. And then I think that's where all the allegations of child molestation and all that stuff came from, is from them trying to silence him. And it's interesting because the ancient actresses back in the day, Judy Garland, they used to pump them up on amphetamines and work them 15 to 20 hours a day. Any star that makes them money, they love them, and as long as they keep their mouth, they keep making money and running and doing what they want to do. But if they say something like Jackson did, and look what happened to him, dead at 50. Well, it was an accidental thing based on this doctrine. Maybe it was, or maybe it wasn't. No way to actually link it in a way. In some of those cases, it's just oops. And and there's an old handbook in the military and in certain circles. Make it look like an accident or suicide. Works every time. Or, worst case scenario, let them have a plane crash. That's an instant answer. That's what happened to Kennedy. Right. I mean, really, look, you'll see congressmen, some of them die in plane crashes. When they do that, weather and everything, and they have a plane crash, I go, that leads me to be suspicious. And in Texas here, this is Mason country. Texas.
Oh, really?
I didn't realize why do you
Mason.
think SpaceX and all the power of Texas? I realized that. Whoa, this is a connect. And where does George Bush live? Houston. Where was Kennedy killed? Dallas. See, it all came together to me. I say it's a good country, but there's a good part of evil here too. That under the guise of good is here. They all go to church. They all shake hands with you. But, George Bush ate at restaurants right around here in Crawford, Texas. I'm not far from there, from his ranch and everything. But they go up to Kennebunkport in the summer. In the winter, they're down here. So this area is terribly, terribly corrupted.
You just moved. You moved right into all of it.
And the thing is, it's my home state, my hometown, my area. Now, if you get out around the farmers where I grew up, they don't like that stuff. They don't like people doing it. But yet there are Masons there. Some that don't even know the truth. They're just part of a Masonic thing that they think is just a good brotherhood. Have you ever looked up the Odd Fellows? There's another group.
No, I
another group. There's
now, though.
ODDFELLOWS, Odd Fellows. That person at church wanted me to join the Odd Fellows. When I got there, I thought, no, I don't think I should be joining this. There's a lot of secret organizations that are not known. You don't hear anything about them. You never do. And there's several organizations that exist that are never talked about. And what do? What is their secret society there for? What is it? The fraternal orders that are out here, the Moose Lodge.
It's all these weird names. You just know it's all the same
Lodge
thing.
And,
right.
And all of these are fraternal, and they may come under the auspices of maybe the Masons. I don't know. Of who?
That's such a weird name. I've never heard of this group.
And why do they call themselves the Odd Fellows? Why that name?
What makes them odd?
That seems like a detriment to joining. So you look at these things and you find out that, man, there's more to this world that you don't know, and each has their own agenda. Because you form an organization for a purpose. That's what an organization is formed for.
Mm-hmm.
Or a fraternal order, the Order of the Moose Lodge, the whatever it is. And, there's business.
What is a Moose Lodge? And then what are Shriners? Are they kind of just...
Yeah, there they are. There's another organization, the Shriners. And they wear the cap with... And they're kind of like a Muslim almost kind of thing. It's kind of like that, kind of weird. They're really, I don't know much about them, but they're all through Texas. They have Shriners hospitals. They're a benevolent order of Shriners, kind of. And the Shriners, the shrine. What shrine? Shriners, what? And I haven't studied them. That's a big one. That's a real big one. And that's international. And the founding fathers, many were Masons. Many were Masons. And there are Masons in the churches. And those who were of the Odd Fellows. I was invited to join the Odd Fellows early on in my life when I was at First Baptist Church in San Francisco. I went to a meeting just to see what it was about. And it was run just like a call to order, and they do that. But, once you get past that and get into the underbelly in the inside, it's about something else. It's about a fraternity to accomplish a goal. And I think the Odd Fellows comes under that, which were the Masons and the Skull and Bones and the other societies. There's other societies that you never hear about, ever. And they're there. And they're, like the Order of the Garter, which is the Queen of England.
Really?
The Queen of England is the head Mason.
No, I didn't. I've never heard that one.
The Scottish Rites.
Wow.
The Scottish Rites. She is and the Order of the Garter. These are Masonic. They are the head Masons of the world. The royals of the Windsors. So you got to see the Queen, where one of the most important cities Rome established besides Rome itself? London.
No, I don't.
Londinium was started by Rome. London was created by Rome, the Romans.
Wow.
So think about that one. And it was a city built on the Thames by Romans who came and occupied Britain. The ones who occupied Britain were Romans up until what, 500, 600, 400 or 500 AD. So think about that. And it explains how in law in the 50s and 60s, guess what everybody who studied law had to learn and work in? They used Latin. Think about it. And who is the head of the Latins or the Romans today? The Pope. So that means he was the head lawyer, the head over all the law in the world. He considers himself the vicar of Christ on earth. So
wow.
Think about it. He could be in part, and there's the middle court, the inner court, and the outer court in London in the Miracle Mile, all reflective of Rome. So Rome still exists in power through the Pope, and is in effect ruling the world. And so Londinium, or London, Rome, and Washington, D.C., which was established by who? The British and London. And where each have the Senate and representatives, which is based, guess what? And what are all the capitals built like? Rome. If you look at it, the Vatican has a dome. Washington, D.C., the capital dome. And they each have, at the Washington Monument, the tall phallic symbol there. That's in France, in Rome, at the Vatican, and in Washington at the reflection pool for Lincoln. So it's really tied together. And the Statue of Liberty is a goddess from ancient Rome. If you knew that, I don't know.
Do you know that the name, what they call her? I forget. I'm gonna look that up.
Let me take a look real quick here.
I remember hearing Mark Dice talk about this. The first time I ever heard about it was Mark Dice.
I'm checking it right now. Libertas. The goddess of freedom was called Libertas in Rome. And the 7 spikes on the crown represent the 7 oceans and 7 continents to further indicate the universal concept of liberty. And
so why would France give us this, right? I mean, there's a lot of.
It was a Mason who built her, and it was based on a Roman goddess, Libertas, the Roman goddess of freedom, and that's why she's called the Statue of Liberty, which comes from what? Rome, based on Roman rule.
This could be like a beacon for all demons.
Exactly, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because in reality, that is kind of the effect I believe that it has. The Statue of Liberty is modeled after the goddess of freedom, Libertas, and it represents the 7 oceans and the 7 continents, and the universal, quote, universal concept of liberty, meaning liberty for what? Universal liberty. Think about that for a moment, and it's not a good thought.
Right.
It takes 30 years for the statue to change color from copper to green. It took 30 years, and the torch symbolized enlightenment. Liberty
kind of looks like a...
And it's enlightening of the enlightenment of the world. And who are the enlightened ones? The what?
Illuminati.
Now we're getting somewhere. And there, 25 windows are found in the crown. They symbolize gemstones in heaven's rays, shining over the world. But she's standing on a broken shackle and chains with her right foot raised. and that's moving away from oppression and slavery, which I could go into that.
This is like a gargoyle. It's just like a gargoyle that's meant to ward off demons, but it's bringing in demons.
And, it's interesting that the Statue of Liberty is an idol, a goddess, which the Father says we should not do that. And it's the tallest statue, of course, in New York City. And it says it gets struck by lightning. Every year it's hit around 600 times since it was built. It's it is actually a shameful thing having an idol, and it's not, it was a gift from France to the United States, because in the beginning France supported the United States because it was rebelling against who? Their enemy, Britain. And so they were in support of that.
But then yet all of the behind the scenes, right? All of the Masons and all of those groups, all the people a part of all of those countries were all working as one. They were working for some goal.
And it's a big thing, because this just does not go from America. This goes ways back to them planning a new world order back hundreds of years ago to rule as one over all. And it's going to come to fruition. It is going to happen. I know that, because the Word tells me they will overcome us. They will win for a time, and we will lose for a time. But that's what happened to the Savior. He lost. He was crucified. But by that is how he got his victory. He was destroyed, but was resurrected in power. And that's what's going to happen in the last days. The body of the Savior will be again crucified or destroyed in the end, that we may be resurrected in power. So we're not to fear our deaths, which will come for many of us. But we are to embrace it and proclaim his death as the reason that we follow him into death in denying the New World Order.